All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Woman is not peace, she is test. Written by Conrad Riker, available now, links in description. Woman is not peace, a field guide for men who still notice reality. The cinnamon phallus fallacy, systematically dismantling the Marxist cult of female victimhood and the NPC state. Look closely at the madness before you, a woman staring at a dried stick of tree bark and hallucinating a rigid phallic imposition. This is not political discourse. It is a psychotic break from material reality, a symptom of an ideological parasite that has eaten the host's ability to perceive the world objectively. We are told by the High Coven that the spice rack is an altar of oppression and that common sense is merely the voice of the internalized oppressor. I am here to tell you that this manifesto is a prime specimen of the leftist word game, a recursive loop of asymmetric status and self-sealing immunity designed to bypass your logic and hijack your empathy. They attempt to linguistic inflation, turning a cooking ingredient into a weapon of war, because when they face the raw, unyielding truths of biology and history, their narrative crumbles into dust. This essay will systematically dismantle this grievance-mongering using the trivium and the iron laws of evolutionary psychology. We will trace the etymology of cinnamon back to reality, proving that a cinnamon stick is just a plant, not a patriarchal conspiracy, and use formal syllogisms to demonstrate that viewing the world through this lens is a pathology, not a philosophy. We will expose the gamma bias inherent in their herstory narrative, which amplifies female domestic labor, while erasing the millions of men slaughtered in industrial wars and hazardous jobs. The true blood of our forefathers that built the civilization, these academics despise. You will see how the anti-theft backpack is not a symbol of male predation, but evidence of female solipsism and the empathy gap, ignoring that men are overwhelmingly the victims of street violence. They demand we rewrite the sexual scripts and starve the oppressor, branding men as parasites to justify their hate. This is hate speech, plain and simple. A sustained, threat-focused motivation toward a specific group masked as moral superiority. I will show you how this ideology turns its adherents into NPCs, incapable of dialectic, immune to reason, and driven by a narcissistic rage that seeks to dismantle the trust and reciprocity holding Western society together. We are going to break the spell of ignorance and deconstruct the lie that woman is not peace, she is test. A test of your resolve to see through the semantic fog. Prepare for the red pill in its purest form. Bunkum article by a feminist PhD. The Spices of Subjugation, a manifesto for gastropatriarchal dismantling by Dr.
Winona feminist Marxist PhD. As we approach the season of forced festivity, the bourgeois machinery of the patriarchy spins into overdrive, churning out not just goods,
but a scripted reality designed to keep the feminine spirit in chains. We are told to look at the cinnamon stick and see a spice. I tell you to look closer and see the rigid, phallic imposition of order upon the chaotic, fluid beauty of nature. This is not a spice rack, it is an altar of heteronormative compliance. We must engage in a radical displacement of common sense reasoning. Your common sense is merely the internalized voice of the oppressor, whispering that the kitchen is a place of love. No, it is a site of historical trauma. When you reach for those holiday recipes handed down like shackles from grandmother to granddaughter, you are participating in a perpetual indictment of female potential. These are not instructions for sustenance. They are blueprints for domestic servitude, written in the blood of our foremothers who knew no other language but submission. To bake a pie according to tradition is to collude with the erasure of our collective her story. Consider the anti-theft backpack. In a just world, in a matriarchal utopia of mutual aid and communal care, such a device would be absurd, but under the boot of the phallocracy, it is a survival necessity. Why must our sisters lock their zippers? Because the male gaze has evolved from a glance into a predation. The backpack is not merely luggage. It is a mobile fortress, a sad testament to the reality that public space is male space, and women are merely interlopers who must armor their very belongings against the violation of the entitled class. We are rewriting the sexual scripts taught to us. We are taught to be receptive, to be the vessel, to be the cinnamon stick dissolved into the punch of male desire. No more. We must be the anti-theft mechanism, impenetrable, watchful, hostile to appropriation. The male anxiety you feel when you assert your boundaries is not your guilt. It is the sound of the paradigm shattering. We possess the satrice of the eternally wronged, which grants us the ultimate nol-G. We know that their science and their logic are mere tools of power designed to silence the feeling of righteous anger that courses through our veins. They speak of reciprocity, but there can be no reciprocity with a parasite. There is only the duty to dismantle. Their discomfort is not our concern. Their confusion is a symptom of their impending obsolescence. If you find yourself feeling sympathy for the men who lament this shift, recognize that feeling as the residue of your conditioning. Apply the sanction of social ostracization to those who cling to the old recipes. Do not debate them. You cannot debate a tornado. You simply batten down the hatches and wait for the storm to pass, or better yet, become the storm that destroys the house. We are the high coven of cultural evolution. We are immune to their pleas for tradition because we see the rot underneath the cinnamon. They will call us hysterical. They will call us witches. Good, let them fear the names they give us. Consume the narrative, starve the oppressor. The semantics of spices, deconstructing the grammar of grievance. Aristotle defined man as a rational animal. But Dr.
Winona feminist Marxist PhD seems determined to redefine him as a patriarchal oppressor of tree bark.
When I read the manifesto titled The Spices of Subjugation, I did not see a political treatise. I saw the clinical symptoms of a mind possessed by an ideological virus that has declared war on material reality itself. This woman looks at a cinnamon stick, a dried piece of tree matter harvested for thousands of years to preserve food and please the human palate, and sees a rigid phallic imposition. This is not a critique of culture. It is a psychotic projection of an internal obsession with sex and power onto a spice rack. To understand the depth of this delusion, we must apply the trivium and the scalpel of evolutionary psychology. Dr.
Winona calls for a radical displacement of common sense reasoning, but she fails to understand what common sense actually is. It is not, as she claims, the internalized voice of the oppressor.
Common sense is the crystallized wisdom of our ancestors, the heuristics that allowed us to survive the Pleistocene. When your common sense tells you that fire burns, it is not the voice of the pyromaniac patriarchy. It is an evolved error management mechanism. To reject common sense in favor of chaotic subjectivity is not liberation. It is a suicide pact. It is the equivalent of seeing a tiger in the jungle and deciding that the tiger is a social construct of feline supremacy, only to be eaten before you can finish your thesis. She tells us to displace the survival mechanisms that kept humanity alive because they offend her solipsistic narrative, and in doing so, she reveals the death drive at the heart of modern feminism. This manifesto is a masterclass in what I call the status knowledge loop, a circular logic trap that seals the ideologue inside a bubble of self-righteous immunity. Dr.
Winona asserts that women possess the startet of the eternally wronged, and from this victimhood, she derives the ultimate canals.
She claims that because women suffer, they possess a secret gnosis that renders science and logic invalid. This is standpoint epistemology stripped naked, the idea that truth is not objective, but is gated by identity and suffering. If a white man discovers gravity, it is a tool of power. If a woman feels that gravity is oppressing her, that feeling is treated as empirical data. She creates a closed loop where her status as a victim grants her knowledge, and she uses that claimed knowledge to reinforce her status. If you disagree with her, she does not engage with your arguments. She simply claims your logic is a mere tool of power, thereby granting herself immunity from refutation. This is the architecture of a cult. She creates a definition of truth that excludes anyone who does not subscribe to her emotional grievances. By framing logic itself as a patriarchal weapon, she attempts to disarm the very faculty required to dismantle her arguments. It is a verbal equivalent of an anti-theft backpack, impenetrable, not because it is strong, but because it locks itself from the inside. Let us look closer at the etymology of her supposed enemies to see the bankruptcy of her semantic inflation. She wails against the resi and the cinnamon stick, but if we apply the grammar stage of the trivium, defining our terms, we find her narrative dissolves into dust. The word respi comes from the Latin recipere, meaning to take or to receive. It is a set of instructions for chemistry, for sustenance, for the transformation of raw materials into life-giving energy.
It is a truncheon of knowledge, a receipt of wisdom. Dr. Winona, blinded by her hate, redefines this as a plan for domestic servitude.
This is semantic inflation, taking a neutral or positive term and pumping it full of toxic meaning until it bursts. Similarly, cinnamon derives from the Greek cinnamomon and Phoenician roots referring to the specific tree bark. It has no etymological link to phalluses or domination. To look at a spice and see an erection is not analysis. It is a confession of a hypersexualized paranoia. She is not describing the world. She is hallucinating a nightmare onto it. By inflating the meaning of a cooking spice to represent the entire edifice of heteronormative compliance, she creates a moral panic out of thin air. She demands we see the rot underneath the cinnamon, but the only rot is in the lens through which she views the world. We can formalize this madness using a syllogism to demonstrate just how irrational this phallic projection truly is. Let us construct the argument in the rigorous logic of the trivium. Major premise: for an object to be a tool of phallocentric domination, it must possess the intent or agency to dominate sexually. Minor premise: a dried stick of Cinnamomum verum bark is a biological product devoid of consciousness, intent, or agency.
Conclusion: therefore, viewing a spice rack as an altar of heteronormative compliance is a psychotic projection, not a rational critique. Dr. Winona cannot escape this.
If the cinnamon stick has no agency, it cannot be an oppressor. If it cannot be an oppressor, her grievance is a fantasy, yet she persists. Why? Because she relies on feeling as truth. She feels violated by the shape of the spice, therefore it is a violation. This is the emotional reasoning that kills civilizations. It substitutes subjective hysteria for objective reality. When you abandon the syllogism for the sentiment, you abandon the bridge for the swim. You might feel like you can fly, but gravity, a patriarchal concept, no doubt, will still dash you on the rocks. The most insidious lie in this manifesto, however, is found in her historical revisionism, which is a textbook example of gamma bias. Gamma bias is the distortion of reality where female suffering is maximized and male suffering is minimized. Dr.
Winona wails about shackles handed down from grandmothers and the blood of our foremothers who knew no other language but submission.
She paints a picture of history where women were prisoners in the kitchen and men were the leisurely beneficiaries of their toil. This is a fiction that ignores the male disposability that built the West. While her foremothers were baking pies, using recipes that ensured their children didn't starve in the winter, her forefathers were dying in the trenches of Verdun, freezing in the Atlantic fishing grounds, and breaking their backs in the coal mines. She frames the domestic sphere as a concentration camp, ignoring that for most of history, the home was the only sanctuary from the brutal, lethal violence of the outside world. By maximizing the constraint of domestic labor and minimizing the lethal reality of male labor, she creates a narrative of eternal victimization. She calls men parasites, ignoring that it is men who built the sewage systems that keep her from cholera, the electrical grid that powers her word processor, and the geopolitical stability that allows her to publish her unhinged screeds without fear of being carted off by a warlord. This is not gratitude, this is the gratitude gap in action, fueled by a gamma bias that erases male sacrifice to justify female grievance.
This brings us to the responsibility without authority trap that defines the modern male condition. Dr. Winona speaks of rewriting sexual scripts, of women being the anti-theft mechanism, impenetrable and hostile.
She wants to strip men of their power while demanding they shoulder the burden of her anxiety. In her worldview, men have the duty to adjust to her feelings, but they have zero power to define the terms of the interaction. This is the asymmetry that drives men into the ground. We see this played out in family courts every day. Men are held responsible for children they are not allowed to see, expected to pay for a household they are excluded from, and shamed for a toxic masculinity they are told is biological, but somehow also a choice. She claims men must adjust to the paradigm shattering, but offers no role for men other than that of the villain to be defeated. This is a social contract where one party signs the checks and the other party cashes them while burning the bank. When you treat half the population as parasites and tornadoes, you do not create a utopia, you create a powder keg. The male anxiety she mocks is the rational response to a society that has declared war on male nature while expecting male competence to keep the lights on. Ultimately, Dr.
Winona and her high coven are not cultural evolutionaries. They are NPCs running a corrupted script.
They are driven by a recursive loop of asymmetric status, gated knowledge, and self-sealing immunity that makes them impervious to reason. They claim to hate the patriarchy, yet they define themselves entirely in opposition to it, like a child screaming that they hate their father while demanding he pay for their college tuition. They have no positive vision, only a negative reaction. They want to starve the oppressor, but they fail to realize that in a symbiotic economy, starving the host kills the parasite. They are breaking the wheel of civilization because they don't like the color of the spokes. They call us hysterical. They call us witches. Let them. We have logic, etymology, biology, and the entire weight of empirical reality on our side. They have a cinnamon stick and a grievance. When the house of cards collapses, as it mathematically must, it will be the men they despised who will be expected to rebuild it. I, for one, will be watching from the sidelines, sipping my coffee, spiced with cinnamon, the bark of reality, waiting for them to learn that feelings do not carve stone and hate does not bake bread. This fortress of solipsism isn't a shield. It is a siege engine against Western civilization, weaponizing gamma bias to frame female anxiety as objective reality, while completely erasing male suffering. She demands responsibility without authority, expecting men to carry the weight of the world, while she reserves the right to be hostile and impenetrable. When she brands men as parasites to be starved, she reveals the sustained threat-focused motivation that defines hate, proving her ideology is not about equity but destruction. She clutches her anti-theft backpack as a totem of victimhood, oblivious to the fact that men are the true victims of violent crime in public spaces, an empathy gap so vast it defies statistical logic. All of this culminates in a totalitarian bid for immunity, where she utilizes the sanction of social ostracization to silence dissent, turning the public square into a rigid echo chamber of enforced conformity. The mobile fortress, gamma bias, and the solipsism of the victim. Dr.
Winona, feminist Marxist, PhD, looks at a cinnamon stick and sees a phallic imposition. But when I look at her manifesto, I see a textbook case of self-sealing ideology, so tight it creates a vacuum where logic suffocates.
This woman, this doctor of grievance studies, has essentially built a mobile fortress out of her own neurosis, locking herself inside with the rotting husks of Marxist theory and throwing away the key. She claims to seek liberation, Yet her entire psychological framework is constructed around the immutable axis of propaganda: status, knowledge, meaning, feeling, duty, boer, sanction, and finally, immunity. In her worldview, she possesses the sachas of the eternally wronged, which grants her a gated knowledge that the rest of us, mere parasites, cannot access. This allows her to inflate the meaning of a holiday spice rack into a site of historical trauma, transforming her subjective feeling of distress into an objective moral emergency. Because she feels victimized, she asserts a unilateral duty upon men to adjust to her chaos, while freezing power for herself to be impenetrable and hostile. When men try to use reason to dismantle this house of cards, she deploys the sanction of social ostracization, claiming one cannot debate a tornado. And finally, she retreats into immunity, rendering herself unreachable by dialectic. This is not political discourse. This is the cognitive structure of a non-player character, an ideological zombie programmed to interpret any counter-argument not as a correction, but as proof of her oppression. You cannot reason with a tornado, she says, but you also cannot reason with a woman who believes her own hysteria is a form of physics. The sheer narcissism required to frame the anti-theft backpack as a symbol of male oppression, while overlooking the stark reality of the empathy gap, is astounding.
Winona complains that women must protect their very belongings against the intrusion of the entitled class, portraying a world where women are vulnerable outsiders in a threatening male public realm.
Let's apply rational thinking and examine the facts, not her emotion-based rhetoric, who actually faces attacks in public spaces. The Department of Justice data consistently reveals that men are far more likely to be victims of violent crime, including assault and robbery, than women. A man walking down a dark alley is statistically at much higher risk than a woman. Yet we don't see men writing declarations about how city streets are a female space created to oppress them. Men accept risk as part of existing in the physical world. Women, influenced by gamma bias, diminish male suffering. We are the disposable sex, the cannon fodder of civilization, and exaggerate their own minor inconveniences into existential threats. That backpack isn't a mobile fortress against a patriarchy. It demonstrates female privilege, the luxury of excessive caution available only to those whom society collectively agrees to protect. She sees a threat in every shadow because her ideology demands she be a victim. It's the only way she can rationalize her endless desire for moral authority. When Dr.
Winona speaks of the male gaze evolving into predation, she is engaging in a classic psychological projection that Jordan Peterson might identify as a failure to integrate the shadow.
She pathologizes male sexuality, which is inherently visual, direct, and discriminating, as a form of violence, because she refuses to confront the chaotic, destructive nature of her own intrasexual competition. She accuses men of wanting to consume her, to turn her into a vessel, but who is it that actually treats human beings as commodities? Look at the modern mating market. Look at the divorce courts, where men are stripped of their assets and their children at a rate that would make a feudal lord blush. Look at the reality of paternity fraud, where conservative estimates suggest that millions of men are raising children they did not biologically father, victims of a reproductive strategy that relies entirely on deception.
This is the true parasitism, but you will never hear Dr. Winona acknowledge it.
By framing male desire as a violation, she attempts to enact a unilateral duty upon men to suppress their nature, to become eunuchs in service to her comfort, all while she demands the power to be hostile without consequence. It is a sick game of responsibility without authority. Men are expected to protect and build the very civilization she despises, yet they are demonized the moment they attempt to assert the boundaries required to do so. Let us be completely clear about what this manifesto actually represents. It is a document of hate. We must define our terms. Hate is not a rude word or a hurt feeling. Hate is a sustained, threat-focused motivation toward a specific target. Dr.
Winona explicitly labels men as parasites, a dehumanizing rhetoric historically used to justify genocide. She commands her followers to starve the oppressor and to become the storm that destroys the house.
This is not the language of equality, it is the language of elimination. She creates a moral asymmetry where female suffering is the only sin that matters, and male suffering is either invisible or deserved. This is the essence of gamma bias, minimizing the input of harm to men while amplifying the output of harm from men. She admits there can be no reciprocity with a parasite. By her own definition, she has abandoned the social contract. She rejects the fundamental building block of Western civilization, the handshake of mutual respect in favor of a cult of victimhood. This is not a cry for help. It is a declaration of war against the biological reality of the male sex. The totalitarian impulse here is naked and frightening. She commands her followers to apply the sanction of social ostracization to those who cling to tradition, effectively calling for a modern-day witch trial where evidence is forbidden and the verdict is predetermined. This is the mechanism of the mob, the dynamic of the witch hunt that Salem and McCarthyism perfected, now repackaged for the Instagram generation. She calls it the High Coven, a fitting name for a group that operates on magic thinking and ritualistic shaming rather than logic or justice. She wants to create a world where confusion is a symptom of their impending obsolescence. But understand this, confusion is the inevitable result of trying to navigate a world where the rules shift based on the whims of the most emotionally volatile person in the room. By refusing to debate, by claiming immunity to logic, she is not winning the argument. She is destroying the possibility of truth. This is the death of the intellect. When you remove the capacity for error correction, when you declare yourself immunity to critique, you are no longer a rational agent. You are an automaton, a biological robot reciting scripts written by dead ideologues who hated life itself. If Dr.
Winona and her High Coven get their wish if they succeed in dismantling the patriarchy, which is really just the ordered structure of Western competence. They will not find a matriarchal utopia of mutual aid.
They will find the jungle. History is a brutal teacher. As Stéphane Molyneux has exhaustively documented using the data of the past, high-trust societies are built on the foundation of the nuclear family and the sacrificial labor of men. When you break the trust, when you tell men that their contributions are parasitic and their nature is criminal, they withdraw, they go on strike. They stop generating the surplus energy that funds the universities, the welfare state, and the anti-theft backpacks. The result is not chaotic fluidity, it is the iron rule of nature read in tooth and claw.
Without the parasites to build the walls and maintain the grid, the mobile fortress becomes a tomb. Dr. Winona thinks she is the storm destroying the house, but she is merely a termite eating the load-bearing beam.
When the roof collapses, it will not fall on the patriarchy, it will fall on her. And when the dust settles, she will be begging for the return of the oppressor to come save her from the consequences of her own solipsism. You have seen the enemy, and she holds a cinnamon stick like it is a weapon of war. It is pathetic, really. Dr. Feminist Marxist shrieks about displacing common sense because she knows common sense is the kryptonite to her cult. It is the evolved survival mechanism that recognizes a dried tree bark is just a spice, not a patriarchal conspiracy. We have traced her words through the grammar of reality and found them hollow. Her rigid phallic imposition is a delusion of her own making, a frantic projection designed to mask the reality that while she invents oppression in the kitchen, men are still the ones dying in the gutters and on the battlefields to keep the lights on. She demands immunity from logic while wielding sanction like a whip, but the whip has snapped back. When she calls men parasites and commands you to starve the oppressor, she isn't writing theory. She is cheering for the very system that strips fathers of their children in biased family courts, ignores the skyrocketing male suicide rate, and treats you as nothing more than a disposable utility to be harvested and discarded. This ideology isn't equality. It is a hate-fueled vendetta against the biological reality that sustains her. Now you stand in the sunlight, armed with the trivium and the cold, hard steel of logic. You are no longer bound by their manufactured stata or frightened by their moralized, feeling. You see the NPC programming for what it is. A recursive autoregressive loop of narcissism designed to dismantle Western civilization and replace it with a chaotic matriarchy of incompetence. You possess the irrefutable facts, the etymological truth, and the unshakable foundation of the red pill. Do not debate the tornado, dismantle it brick by brick. Take this knowledge and wield it with ruthless precision. Go forth and save your brothers from the lie. The spell is broken, the matrix is revealed, and the truth is yours to spread like wildfire. Burn down the narrative and build something real on the ashes. And now the sponsored book introduction. Woman is not peace, she is test. I have been betrayed, used, and discarded by women who smiled while they cut. I have watched men like me, men of reason, integrity, and strength, broken down by the same forces, told they are toxic for refusing to kneel, for daring to expect respect. I have seen marriages collapse not from lack of love, but from excess of manipulation. I have seen sons alienated from fathers by mothers who weaponized affection. I have seen careers derailed, savings drained, and spirits crushed, all while the perpetrators claimed victimhood, wrapped in the sanctimony of tears and trauma. This is not an anomaly, this is the system. And the system is working exactly as designed. You are not imagining it. The woman who demands chaos when you offer peace is not an exception, she is the rule. The lover who calls your stability boring, your virtue weakness, your logic oppression, is not confused. She is following a script written in blood and biology. She does not want a partner, she wants a battlefield. She does not seek harmony, she seeks drama, because drama is her oxygen, and peace is her death. This book is not written from theory, it is written from scars. From sleepless nights in foreign hotels, from courtrooms where truth was irrelevant, from therapy sessions where the therapist sided with the abuser. I have lived the nightmare that others dismiss as misogyny. I have paid in money, time, and soul, and I have returned with the map. This book is for men who are awake, men who have felt the knife twist and realized it came from a hand they kissed. Men who have been labeled abusive for saying no, tyrannical for setting boundaries, cold for refusing to bleed on command. It is for those who love the West, not its failures, but its genius, reason, individualism, beauty, courage. It is for men who know that the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric is not a classroom exercise, but a weapon against lies. This book will not comfort you. It will not tell you that women are victims, that feminism is about equality, that your pain is your fault. It will tell you the truth. Femininity, as it operates today, is a force of destruction disguised as nurture. It is not all women, but the pattern is universal enough to be undeniable. The BPD spectrum is not a disorder. It is the operating system of modern female socialization. Emotional exploitation is not an accident. It is the default setting. Love is not a sanctuary. It is a control mechanism. You will learn why peace is punished, why high-value men are hunted, why kindness is seen as submission, why drama is mandatory, why motherhood has become a weapon, why chivalry was buried not by men, but by women who despise the virtue it represents. You will see how cultural Marxism, feminism, and genocentrism are not movements but parasites, feeding on male duty while eroding male sovereignty. You will understand that the family is not broken. It was dismantled brick by those who profit from its ruins. This is not speculation. This is forensic analysis. Every claim is rooted in observation, history, psychology, and evolutionary biology. You will not find platitudes here. You will find ammunition. If you are a woman who believes in her innocence, who thinks men are the problem, who sees herself as a victim of patriarchy, close this book now, put it down, go watch a rom-com. Read a self-help manual about healing your inner child. This truth is not for you. It will not comfort you. It will not flatter you. It will expose you, and you are not ready. If you are a man who still believes in the fairy tale, who thinks the next woman will be different, who imagines that more empathy, more sacrifice, more money will finally earn you love, then this book will hurt you. It will shatter illusions, and pain is the price of awakening. But if you are ready to stop being used, if you are tired of losing, if you want to reclaim your mind, your will, your life, then this book is your first step. The path ahead is not easy. It demands courage. It demands logic. It demands that you stop forgiving the unforgivable and start seeing the world as it is. But on the other side is sovereignty, freedom, clarity. The return of the warrior is not a metaphor. It is a necessity. The restoration of the West begins with men who refuse to lie to themselves. This book will not make you popular. It will make you free. Read it. Understand it. Act on it. The test has already begun. You are not peace. You are war. And war demands truth. Woman is not peace. She is test, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.